Hey everybody! Hi! Hey! Hi! It's me. I'm Chris. Hi! Hi! It's nice to see you. Or if you're listening on the podcast, it's nice to be heard by you. Anyway, my name's Chris, and I said that already, but I'm with Jim McCormick, and we're here to talk about the divisional round of the playoffs, at which we are experts. Hello, Jim McCormick.
Yeah, it's ironic that Philadelphia is the first team ever to get a week one bye without earning one. That was cool. They just coasted onto the offseason into the ether. But yeah, hello everybody. This is how I mourn. This is my mourning weekend. So
it is time to mourn for the Eagles. There'll be a little Eagle talk as we get going through this fine slate of games. We have 4 games that we're gonna talk about. Our goal here is kind of just talk about how we think these teams look and or will look, how they match up against their opponents, the keys as we expect them to play out, and then we'll make some picks against the spread as well. And then intermingled in there, I think I'll probably think of some football topics to ask Jim as well. So I guess we'll dive right in. I want to thank DraftKings for sponsoring. We do appreciate that DraftKings has been with us all season, and if you're looking for a way to make sure we come back next year, I'll tell you about it in a little while. DraftKings is a sponsor. They're great. We love them. So Jim, I'm going to get us started with the first game on Saturday. That is Texans at Ravens. 3 of the 4 games this weekend are rematches from regular season games, and in those games, I think the teams that the favorites all won. The teams that are favored this week all won when they matched against each other in the regular season. But I'm going to go ahead and say maybe the one that applies the least is Ravens-Texans, because in Baltimore in week 1, it was C.J. Stroud's first game ever. The Ravens won 25-9. And I would say as a jumping off point to talk about how this game goes, what I recall from watching that film, and I refreshed it a little bit here lately, is that probably the most man coverage that the Texans maybe faced the entire year happened in week 1 against the Ravens, because that's kind of what the Ravens do. They're going to bring pressure, and they're going to play a lot of man. So we'll wind up talking about other aspects of this game, but my launching point is, do you feel like C.J. Stroud is that good for him or not good for him?
it's probably not good. He's destroyed zones so far this year, and like a lot of single high, and that's not what you're going to do with these versatile safeties, these like world-class safeties. The one team that still cares about linebackers and safeties seemed to work this year. But yeah, no, I tried to use it as a precedent. I went back and looked, and if we used the first quarter, it was 7-6. So I don't know if that's great, but no, I remember that in that game, it felt close actually a little bit if you watch it. And then the third quarter, I believe, was 15-0, and was just like a stomping. And yeah, they basically pressed those young corners. Tank Dell couldn't get free. I think is also just maybe this is a little crutchy, but just that was a true rookie CJ Stroud. We had it just seemed like that. What a trial by fire to go to Baltimore and face that defense. And they don't blitz anymore, which is still, I'm trying to get used to that Baltimore doesn't blitz. It's kind of the alliteration of the Wink Martindale's, the culture, and I think it's almost like when offensive linemen keep making the Pro Bowl kind of thing. You know what I mean? I'm not sure many people realize that Baltimore doesn't blitz anymore. And I think that's going to continue this week. But I also think they're much more prepared to handle that. So not to leak what I'm thinking. I just think that this Baltimore has improved on offense. They're the same defense, but I think Houston might have made the most leaps in the entire season from week 1 to now. That's not that crazy to say. So
it's not. I mean, because you'd say Stroud is the dude who probably made the most progress as a player. You'd probably say that first month, there were some fun plays. There were some big numbers. People for fantasy were really excited about him, but it was still a very conservative offense when they played against the Ravens in week 1. And it's not anymore. And I can't imagine, if they're going to go down, they're going to go down swinging. They're going to go down with what they've been doing. Anybody who has any question about the Texans' approach, only watch them against Cleveland last week, where we said we saw what was going to happen, and it absolutely happened. Like you can make big plays against that Cleveland defense, and Houston did, and they're going to try it against Baltimore as well. I mean, I should just take a moment and say we had maybe our best week ever on this show last week. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to watch last week and realize how I talked up the Cleveland defense so much and was like,
Fair.
it's the best unit in the field. So you use the we, the royal we, which I liked being a part of. Like I'm part of
Okay.
the, like I'll just no, just edit this part, Dave. No one's gonna know this part.
I,
Um,
you, as far as picking sides go last week, you were 4-2, even though you got the
yes,
Houston game wrong, and I was
yes,
5-1 picking sides,
yeah,
and nobody got any props wrong. And I gave them 2, you gave them like 5, so it was a
yeah.
very, very good week. I should say Jason Clive was our viewer / listener, probably viewer on YouTube, who mentioned a pick. Who we picked them out because they're the ones that we picked this week, and they picked the Texans as well, as did I. Jason and I were simpatico on that one. Should we be apologizing to Dave Piper because he's a Browns fan? Should we be?
Yeah, I'm not really into apologizing to bad football teams right now. You know,
Somewhere,
kind of like
somewhere the Eagles and Browns are playing this week. Somewhere in a cornfield.
they are. Yeah, they're playing "Don't Answer the Phone" as the Eagles try to poach their coaching staff. But yeah, no, I just think that one that they've matured a lot, but also like it's not lost on me. There was also D'Amico Ryan's first game, like meaning there's also maturity within the coaching ranks. Like it was it's one of the younger staffs in the league, and I think they've made some leaps and bounds too in terms of how he game plans. And they have lost some pieces on. They have lost some pieces on offense. We talk about Tank Dell, but they've actually gotten remarkably healthier since then. Like Stingley was hurt then. They also, I don't know how Derek Barnett is good at football, but apparently when you leave Philadelphia, he actually has been a really good impact player, and he was good before early in his career. It just seems they're just letting him get off. I mean, this guy Matt Patricia likes to put defensive ends in coverage, and the Texans are just like maybe just rush the passer. He's got like 3 sacks in 4 games, and last week he helped cause that huge interception. So he's who wrapped up and like kind of corkscrewed Flacco there, which is Flacco's favorite physical move. We all know. From his salsa days. But yeah, I think this game is going to be closer than the line suggests. So yeah.
I do not. I've been on the Texans all year. I made good cash on the Texans so far this season. And this is where I part company. Not that I think it's crazy. I said it at 11. First of all, we should just say that, okay, so there's 2 teams who were on bye, Ravens and 49ers. And it's just true that getting the bye week is worth something, right? It's worth 1.5 points, I think. Usually they say if your opponent had to play, but you got the first round bye, it's maybe worth about 1.5 points, which is why I got it to 11. That's, I was thinking in my head, 9.5. All right, I'm gonna get it up to 11. And I'm a believer in Stroud. I think he's terrific. This is gonna be really hard. This is gonna be very different from the Browns. It's not the same thing. And really, can't we now look at how the Browns defense played on the road the second half of the year and say they probably weren't the best defense? It's probably the Ravens,
Probably these guys, yeah. This is all true, I suppose.
But
something that I'm struggling with. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's going the other direction that I actually feel like I think the Ravens going to score. I think they're going to score a lot. I have
I have a prop for that.
So I do too. So what's your prop on this game?
My prop is just over Lamar Jackson passing yards.
Me too.
It's
independently arrived at. Isn't that crazy?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it's just that they're gonna play 5 DB, cover 3. They're gonna do they're not gonna switch that up because they're trying to hide some of their youth.
Yep.
And the fact that they just don't really have safety play right now in Houston, so they're gonna create this shell, and also just. It's not just a small sample. They have opened up the passing game in Baltimore to the extent of the ball's going more down the field. It's not just Zay Jones. I mean, he's good, but he's not getting 30% of the target share anymore. And Odell Beckham looks pretty good. Meaning that it's more varied. And even without Mark Andrews, I know he got ruled out after some speculation. But yeah, I like that over. But just in regards to the one thing that sometimes gives me, maybe I'm just too into this, but a low total and a big spread. It obviously is saying what Vegas is saying is that Houston number is pretty low. Their implied total. So what is that? It's their implied total is like 19 or 8. It's really low. So it speaks to that a short game. But I actually think it's going to be more than that. I also think there's a real chance that this game's out of hand, and Houston just keeps bombing. And I feel backdoory in this one. I don't feel like it's going to be comfortable to take the Houston.
I mean, listen, when the spread is 9.5, which is what it is as of our recording to this. That's a very viable strategy. I think it could be a 2 touchdown or a 17-point game, but but Houston keeps firing. I get it. I think this is comeuppance weekend. That's going to be a theme, I think, through many of my picks. I think this is going to be comeuppance weekend where the teams that, it felt like conventional wisdom was Cleveland. It felt like conventional wisdom was Dallas. It felt like conventional wisdom was the Rams, big time. You know?
Sure.
And now it feels, and conventional wisdom was Philly. Like, I feel like this is where maybe some of the Cinderella stuff stops happening. I got Lamar just with a big game. I don't trust Houston's defense, and I think another theme that's going to emerge for me as we talk about these 4 games is wow, they really proved themselves. Wow, the Houston defense is better. No, actually, Joe Flacco is just freaking terrible. And did I not disparage the Flacco children last week? Did I not? Did I not, did I not say that was coming? I don't think we get to give the Texans full credit when before the game I was talking smack to the Flacco children. I knew what was coming,
I mean, Flacco antagonist is an archetype. You fall under that genus.
So. I fully resemble that remark. So we're on the opposite sides of the total of the sides. You're going to be on the Texans. Plus 9.5. I'm going to take the Ravens minus 9.5, but we're both on Lamar over. I think it's 229.5 at DraftKings. I think
it's at 230.5 right now, but I'm still over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll give the extra yard. Nope. Now I'm under. No.
I had a 230, so here we go.
Deadly. All right. Let me ask you a coaching carousel question because I'll get to the Eagles in a minute, but that's not the one that's freshest in my mind. Because actually, as of our recording this, we don't actually know anything about the Eagles yet, but we do know about the Cowboys. And Jason Garrett is once again staying with the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, wait, no, that's Mike McCarthy. But it feels very similar to all the many, many years when I was working at ESPN and then I was on my own and talking about how mediocre Jason Garrett was. And sure, he's okay when it doesn't count that much, but when the rubber meets the road, he's going to humiliate you. And that seems like that's Mike McCarthy's thing, too. I know from a selfish Eagle fan perspective, you are rubbing your hands together with glee. But from a football perspective, is this defensible?
No, not really. I mean, like it's because the argument is, the counter is, and you've heard this with the talking heads and the company I work with. I've heard it many times where it's and they just keep saying 36, wins over 3 years. It's but what about the losses that have been really, you said it earlier, that this is a comeuppance week. It's a separation weekend generally in football. And there hasn't I get that there was the Zeke play happened, but in last year's game, but so in theory, they were in that San Francisco game, but it really didn't feel like that. Looking back, meaning that it feels like they were always fait accompli that they're gonna do this. They're gonna Dallas. I do appreciate that this week Mike McCarthy said we have a championship. We have a championship program just without the championship. I just thought that was really cool. It's we're a 5-star restaurant. We just have 3 stars. It's we're a Michelin restaurant, Michelin tires. It's embarrassing, but it's not defensible. And it's also interesting because you called this out last week, and I was like, Dan Quinn's a big hotshot candidate, and you were like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
A lifetime coordinator type of guy, a quadruple A player in the sense, he's never really going to be that level. So I think it's just the fear of change for them, and I get it. They have this roster, but it's actually, I don't get it because they have the roster. We've seen that, and they're just unwilling to inject it with a new vision, and they're going to hammer away at the same repetitive system. And this is not a guy who really seems like some epiphany is going to occur where there's going to be. And he coached in a sense he coaches like Doc Rivers, which is he'll get you the 2 seed. But then when it comes to, he always has a good plan A, but there's no adjustment and there's no adaptive skill set. And I love that. Frankly, I don't, but I love that part.
I mean, this team needs the screws tightened, right? This is a jalopy that would be great if it was running at full speed, but the screws are all loose and it's rattling and it needs the screws tightened. Yeah. And it's particularly indefensible in a year where Bill Belichick is sitting right there, at least as of our recording this. Mike Vrabel would tighten the screws. He'd be great.
Yes.
He would not let the nonsense go on. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb wouldn't be doing whatever the hell they were doing, making eyes at each other in the first half of last week's game. It's indefensible. And it comes down to, it's just, this is what the Cowboys have become, right? This is
especially this exposure. That exposure was particularly I know we didn't see that coming. We both picked the Packers, but that was just like an undressing to a level of it was incredible. I pretend like that was one of my favorite Sundays ever. So
because you didn't,
my tweet way up.
Your team played on Monday. Yeah, man. I'll just say Jerry Jones is much more concerned with other things. He's just much more concerned with being fine and making a lot of money and not having anybody sass him. Yeah. That's it. I mean, and fine. That's what you get then. I mean, this is what you get. And you will continue to. All right. I'll get to the other 3 games here in a moment. Let me thank the sponsor, because DraftKings has been so great to us all year. We really appreciate it. And if you're looking for a way to have fun, if you live in one of the magic states where it's allowed, and also a way to say thank you to us for entertaining you each week over the course of the season, you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You can sign up using the code HarrisTube, all one word. And if you do that, then make one $5 bet. Instantly, you'll have $200 in bonus bets in your account, and you can play some props, or you can do some teasers, or you can do some whatever. You can spread it around a little bit. Of course, we want you to gamble in moderation, please. If you ever catch me making bets of more than $10 or $20, you never will. I never do. So we would encourage people to do it responsibly. But it is fun, and I don't live in one of the states where it's allowed, but Jim does, and our producer Dave does. And they're able to use DraftKings Sportsbook. You can too if you download the Sportsbook app and use that code HarrisTube. One $5 bet, $200 in bonus bets will appear in your account instantly. We do thank them for sponsoring, and it's fun, and we would love it if you do that. All right, let's do the Saturday night game. It's the other 9.5 point spread. It's the other bye week team, the aforementioned Green Bay Packers. The only matchup that did not happen in the regular season this year. They are traveling to San Francisco, and let me start by asking you this: if this had just been week 15, what would this spread have been? Green Bay at San Francisco, regular season, early December, before Jordan Love became Jordan Love.
Yeah, and that's right when they were good and crazy. The Niners had already earned the esteem of they'd already destroyed the Eagles. It would be over. It would be double digits. It would be approaching it'd be one of those weird a minus 11, 12 lines that we saw near the end of the season. Those discordant lines where it was not to say there's Jets Dolphins, but the kind of thing where it would be a pretty big gap. I
think so too. What gets lost? So I think we have a good handle on what San Francisco is. I guess Brock Purdy hasn't really proved that much in the playoffs yet. He played the one game against Dallas, didn't play great in it, and then got hurt right at the beginning of the Eagle game. But otherwise, that roster is fairly well known to us, and they added to it. It's pretty good. The Green Bay offense deserves a lot of praise. They've been bombs away. I will say you don't usually have receivers who are that wide open in NFL games, let alone playoff games where defense just goes whoops and, over and over and over again. Those guys 30 yards down the field running by themselves. And just a matter of a few weeks ago on the show, we were bashing the Green Bay defense for being essentially incompetent, and now we're, I guess, deciding that they're okay. This feels like a lot more about can Green Bay hang with San Francisco than about San Francisco's ceiling, because San Francisco's ceiling's high.
Yeah, no, that's all true. I think also, just to look to last week and maybe how it plays to this week was that I don't think, the Dallas didn't see a lot of things coming, but one of them they didn't see was how much 12 personnel and how much the Packers came out and kind of bullied them on offense and
they ran
right away that first drive. That's why I think Reed didn't see the field much. They didn't really spread things out. They did do some creative things with their but they kind of bullied them and used motion with the bullying. They had their 2 tight ends in there and they don't throw to their tight ends. I mean they have they have the rookie what's his name? He finally stayed up.
Kraft.
And Kraft and Shoemaker, right, or whatever his name is,
Musgrave.
So but they were using Segura. They were pounding, is my point, and it was the most they've ever played 12 personnel all year. They're not going to get away with that against this team. I think they're going to have to go back to 11. And so I guess what I mean is they're going to have to play more. I think on the Niners' terms. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's going to be more representative representative of who the Packers have been more of the year. Not to say that it's some huge red flag regression, but I think they got away with like just kind of like we talked about before, styles made fights. I think they came out with just a much more unique game plan. And the team that couldn't counter, again, like the Doc Rivers analogy, like not to lose it on people, it's a coach who couldn't adjust, right? And the coaches didn't adjust in Dallas. I don't think that's going to be the case here with San Francisco. And yeah, I just think Love, I don't think there's some exposure coming. I just think the gap is real enough, and that's why this line seems appropriate for me. And yeah, it's tough for me to think that I don't think there's some big crash coming, is what I'm saying. I don't think so much of it was fake last week, as much of it is I don't think they're going to get away with some of the tricks they pulled off. Like some of that was real, so.
Yeah, I mean, were they tricks or were they just we're going to run on you
I guess more philosophy than the trick. Like I don't think they're going to be able to establish their agenda, which was to run, and they're not going to be able to get away with like some of that stuff, like that inside stuff that they pulled off, like.
Come uppance weekend. Say it with me, because honestly, once again, I think you've nailed what I think is the key. So San Francisco is probably going to score points. Like I don't think Green Bay's defense is that good. I think
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I think San Francisco.
It didn't feel like Dak was scrambling. He just was. He was scrambled rather than being
So this comes down to, is Jordan Love going to do that again? Are there's going to be free runners as a result of the running game? Aaron Jones going bananas early in that game, which is, Dallas starts to creep up, and then blown assignment, and then we get the long touchdowns. And the answer is this will not work against the 49ers. I don't believe for a second that Green Bay will be able to run like that on the 49ers. I think they will find that very difficult, and I think Jordan Love will therefore find it quite a bit more difficult. I like the Niners by a lot here.
Yeah, no, I really like this. Just to tip my hand, this was the easiest decision I made throughout all these 4 games. It just didn't. It felt natural just to say that this. It feels like a playoff matchup, but when you mentioned the regular season thing, this feels like a game that like the Niners can reduce to like just we know your formula. We're gonna make it a Kevin Love. Oh my God! It's gonna be just they're gonna make Jordan Love have to win the game, and that wasn't the case last week. Even though it felt like he won the game, he looked awesome. That's not how they had to win. So yeah, that's not gonna be as easy. So
agreed. We're on the same side there. I have a prop on this one. Yeah, I do too. Go ahead. What's yours?
Mine's over Jaylen Reed, 3.5 catches. I just think like he had. Is that yours too?
No, I'm just laughing because it's the Jimmy double reverse.
Yes.
But the Packers will be able to do nothing. They're dead. I'd be surprised if they show up. Jaylen Reed over 3.5 catches.
Yeah. Kevin Love, he's a power forward. But it's just that he had 4 straight receptions in 4 straight receptions. What? He had 4 receptions in 8 straight games prior to last week, and I just think it was usage. Like, you can't be on the field. You can't catch if you're not in the field. This is a weird stat. I just think it's 9.5-point dogs. They're going to not be able to run the ball frequently, and the pass balance will go there. And I just think Reed is one of their better players. 3.5 catches is not the craziest bar. Just give me one Danny Woodhead drive, and we're there. So, yeah. I also like Brandon Aiyuk over his yardage. So, yeah.
All right. I mean, hey, we'll put them all up.
That's 65.5, and he destroys single high coverage, and that's the only way the Green Bay plays. And Green, I don't care who it is. It could be, Jair Alexander. He's very funny, but it's not as funny when Brandon Aiyuk is on an island. So.
Mine's easy. Mine's like, I guess Aiyuk is pretty basic. I'm not going clever. Christian McCaffrey over 91.5 rushing yards. At least last time I checked, it was 91.5, and I feel like that's a way over. I'm happy on the if there's a button on your app, if you can go under, over, way over, pick the way over button. All right, let's go to Sunday. We've got the Buccaneers and we'll get to them, who they beat in just a moment. But they are traveling to Detroit. Detroit, like, double benefit here. They get the benefit of not having to face probably a more dangerous Eagle team than the Buccaneers are. The Buccaneers are good. They probably have like a higher floor, as they say, but a lower ceiling. Plus, because the Cowboys lose, they get to be the home team, which, I mean, everything's coming up Lion, it seems like. These 2 teams did play, and it was fairly long time ago. It was week 6. The line that day was Lions at Tampa on the road, favored by 4. That was actually my best bet of week 6. And they wound up winning 20-6, so I got it right. But it wasn't comfortable. It was one of Baker Mayfield's worst games, and there were definitely plays that could have been made and made it closer, and he didn't. Thank you very much to Baker Mayfield for that one. So it's interesting because back in week 6, the line was road Lions -4. Home Lions is -6.5, which are we really considering these teams exactly? It seems like we are. We're almost saying these are the exact teams that played in week 6.
Right. No, and they're not.
I don't. Yeah. Oh, tell me why. Tell me in what way.
Well, I think. Well, maybe I'm wrong because I have respect Tampa more. They just took down a giant of a football team. They just slayed. They just slayed this. They just took down. Comeuppance was last week. No, but I guess Tampa's defense is much healthier. Winfield was out for most of the year. I think he was still banged up around that time. And I just keep saying Antoine Winfield. Like, he's no disrespect to Antoine Winfield Sr. This is Junior, but like I think he's so good we can just drop the Junior. Like, just sorry, buddy. It's just and the aggressive blitzing is going to come there. I just think you can function and get away with the blitzing when you have this dynamic safety. He's not Ed Reed, but he's a center fielder and covers a lot of ground. And Baker Mayfield's playing better. And I just think Jared Goff in a dome is always a dangerous reality. So yeah.
I like the confidence with which you proclaim that Baker Mayfield's playing better. It sounded like you really believed it. We have to somewhat divorce. So this should be. I think the Lions are going to win this game.
Yeah.
So I'll say that. I think the comeuppance here is Tampa not advancing because, let's face it, last week wasn't about Tampa. Good game. No. They played well. Last week was about the Eagles, and that's a meteor. It's a comet. It's a like crashing to earth, like disaster. And all Tampa really had to do was like bolt down the furniture and just wait. The whole thing was collapsing. No question about it. So I do think reality sets in. They're going to be playing a lot better team than the Eagles were by the wild card round. No question. Sorry about that, but we all know that it's probably true. Yeah. But there's also a lot of the same logic that we kind of used to take. I mean, you picked the Eagles, but I know you didn't really believe it last week. We probably should have put a little asterisk on the video saying like, don't actually bet this one. Jim doesn't believe this. You talked about it last week. I talked about it last week. Tampa was not the right defensive style. I don't love their personnel, to be honest. I like Antoine Winfield too. I don't like the corners all that much. And they're names but they're not great. And the pass rush has got some young guys who eventually could be like, we might look back and go, yeah, they were good in their second year, but like, you shouldn't be entering, totally fearing those defensive ends. It's not, it's not the scariest pass rush either, but it was the scheme. It was the blitz. It was like a little button on Jalen Hurts' neck that just said, if you send 5, I don't know what to do. And, Jared Goff has a little of that too. We have to be honest. Like Jared Goff famously quoted all this past couple of weeks, when you don't blitz, number 1 PFF quarterback, and when you do blitz, number 20 something, there's something there. If there's comeuppance for the Lions, it's that now everyone's decided Jared Goff is great. And there's a trail of diarrhea from the second half of last week's game leading from the bench to where Jared Goff was standing. He played great for those first few drives, but he was hot garbage in the second half last week. He made one big throw. It was second or third down, the one because Sean McVay had used all his timeouts. Otherwise, I think the Rams probably get the ball back. I'll ask it this way as a long speech by me. I apologize, but did Jared Goff earn your trust with that rousing victory last week?
And even some of the plays they got away with were just like Jahmyr Gibbs making guys disappear, like in space, or meaning like people had to win, or the last secured like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like it, for one, we'll get in. Like we don't have to talk about like what McVay did because that was like malpractice. But
really was.
It just was.
You could talk about it. Go ahead, talk about it.
Hey, but it just was he threw the game. We wouldn't be talking about them right now had he, or maybe we wouldn't be, had he understood that like the difference between stopping them and like field position, he played a field position game without timeouts. Like, it doesn't matter when you get the stop. You have to get the stop. He delayed the inevitable, and he like wanted to delay the moment, and then he didn't call the timeout before the. It's just, he made almost every like check mark of just, you are lowering your win percentage, and also just the conservative usage of the red zone. So that was a baffling display. So I really do think in some senses they were not handed the game, but they really they didn't outplay the Rams necessarily,
not
right?
The second half, yeah.
And the secondary, I understand, but like, they're not a good tackling secondary. I respect Puka Nacua, but he's not Anquan Bolden. Sorry, like, he shouldn't be throwing humans off of him at all points. And I just think there is I like Tampa only in the sense that I don't like them as much as I don't. It's more, like you said, it's more about what I think about Jared Goff, and Todd Bowles doesn't care. You can check his sheet. It says blitz, 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 blitz. He has a 89 Camaro with blitz license plates. Okay.
Yeah, I think the Ram season montage, like the video montage of their 2023 season, is just going to be Sean McVay dead sprint on the sideline, rushing 30 yards to call a timeout because it's 1st and 10 with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, and he doesn't want a delay of game penalty.
Exactly. That's a great point. He saved 5 yards to cost himself a lifetime.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, frankly, I felt like the Lions were on the right side. I was on the Lions last week. It was, I think the vast majority of the experts were on the Rams, and I wound up being wrong. I felt like first half, I felt like I was on the right side, but then it felt like Goff became Goff, and there's some comeuppance there.
Goff though, that's it was like Goff's season in a game that he has these games, and I don't know how I convinced myself with my dome stats that there are but there are these. There's was it Thanksgiving when then he completely just fell apart? Was that what it was?
It was against Green Bay.
He has these games where when he has to make decisions on the fly, he just makes the worst DoorDash orders ever. He just has 7 cookie weights coming. It's terrible.
We love DoorDash. I think probably in the end Detroit figures out a way to win this game, but
me too.
Not for 6.5 points. I'm on Tampa.
Yeah, I have one prop. It's just Mike Evans over 71.5 yards. I think you can pass on these corners. He also had all the usage in the world last week. They didn't get to him, and it's certainly not because of the Eagles' cornerbacks. I think he was overthrown a few times. He had a pass interference, but he had 7 targets, 140 air yards. I know that can be a useless stat when it comes to David Carr and Derek Carr. More of a Derek Carr stat. But this guy, they actually do dial it up for this guy, and I think we're pretty clear. It's pretty clear who the alpha is. This isn't a split offense. It's Evans. I just think that's one of the safer props of my week. So yeah.
I'm going to pick a Buccaneer passing prop too, but again, I went basic. I had 3 props this week, and they're all basic. Lamar over, McCaffrey over, Baker Mayfield over. I think I said on the podcast with Andy Behrens that I don't need Aikman and Buck telling me what a hero Baker Mayfield is for saving the Buccaneers because they were so much money over the salary cap. That's another one where, boy, come up and I'm ready. I'm ready for Baker Mayfield not to be in the playoffs anymore, but you can throw on Detroit. I just saw it happen. I think there's a way to stay in this game. I don't think this is a 20-6 game the way it was back in week 6. Yeah. So our heads are in the same place there. You just went Evans. I went Mayfield. Be careful
because we're a Baker Mayfield win away from a State Farm commercial. So we just got to be careful. So.
We gotta probably get him out of the playoffs. All right, the last. Actually, before we get to the last game, let's talk about the Eagles. Just want to talk about the coach. I will say, okay. He's weird. He's not your typical NFL coach. I don't hate the exuberance and the trash talking and the brashness and stuff. The moment people on social media start complaining about that stuff is the moment I go, I like that stuff. I we want them all to be Belichick and fart in the microphone and have total disdain for any interaction with the public. I don't mind that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just how many times did he keep going to the microphone after losses and saying, "Yep. Mm-hmm. We got to figure it out, but we got to figure it out. We're going to go back in there and talk to the guys." You talked to them 6 times.
Yeah.
It seems like they weren't listening, dude, because that was a very embarrassing effort.
Yeah.
That's my way of saying I don't think he's gonna go, but I kind of think he should.
Well, I mean, yeah, they lost like 8 of 9, that's pretty bad. And like, and to a variety of teams. It wasn't some like some crazy row of players. Like they elevated anybody they played. Like looked great. I would always send my tape like off of those games. But then I think it's also like it's very clear. I have a friend who covers the team, and the one thing that just struck me, he said, like the one game they won since like November or early December was the Christmas Day game against the Giants, and they barely won that game. And I mean that game included Tommy DeVito or whatever his name was, like Mike Scarapelli, like that game, like he said that you could not tell if they had lost by 30 or if they just squeaked a win out, and that speaks to like the vibe and the culture that like NFL wins are tough to come by. That was stopping a streak of losses. And it was Christmas, and everybody was just like, "Oh my God, get me out of here!" So yeah, he completely lost the team. That is one of the biggest red flags. Like, at least for all the Mike McCarthy stuff, like I didn't see that happening with Dallas.
Right.
And it's also like an office space thing. It's like, so can you tell us what do you exactly do here? Because like you didn't reinstall the offense, you elevated Matt Patricia. Like that's always worked out. I mean, there was a series of fumbles here, and you're right, he's not a traditional coach, and not even in his behavior, but also in his like expertise. Like the offense got much worse when he lost a good assistant. But if offense is your side of the ball, and he's had a strange path. He was a wide receivers coach, right? But his wide receivers don't like him. Like, and I understand that AJ Brown has some like drama to him, but like I don't think it was working with everybody. So I guess long story short in this sense is, yeah, he lost the team. That's a real thing. And if you have to go and like find really like coordinators who probably have better resumes than you, that's not great. So I don't know what the future is. I don't know why I would sign with this team. So they're already at a deficit. There's no other move than to fire him. And I just fear a little bit of not Jerry Jones thing, but I feel Lurie is almost embarrassed to do that because now it'll be 2 straight coaches who've had success. That it's just the heavy-handedness of the front office is coming into play. And it's true, they impose a lot of things, but I would be heavy-handed when you're bad at your job.
Sure. Yeah, well, also, like, it's a roster that should not have done this. Like, we all know it was 10-1 and a really great team. Like, we all, like, it's fine to say, wow, it's you're being David Tepper. You're having two.
Yeah.
No, life is short, dude.
Yeah.
And if you had a choice,
are short, too. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, if you had a choice right now between Nick Sirianni and Mike Vrabel as head coach of the Eagles.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel. Yes, yeah.
By a lot, right?
By a lot. And also like the staff he could put together and the autonomy he could offer. Because I don't know, I think the tinkering like he panicked and he really demoted Brian Johnson. He changed both coordinators this year. And so like that amount of turnover without any results is just scary. And it's also what you said, promising change and it never came. It's just like,
there are problems. I mean, Jalen Hurts has obviously proven that he's really fun when he's doing the tush push, and otherwise, I'm not sure he's a great player. But you're the one who signed him, and you have to deal with him. And like he's terrified when he sees 5 guys coming at him. Like,
and he didn't cater at all to his deficits or his skills. So yeah.
All right. Last game, fun one, really good fun one. 2 years ago, one of the greatest playoff games any of us have ever really seen. Mm-hmm. That was Buffalo in Kansas City. That rematch never happened last year because Cincinnati went to Buffalo and wound up spoiling that particular party. But we get it here, not in an AFC Championship game, and also oft repeated this year, this week, Patrick Mahomes' first road game in the playoffs of his entire career. I don't think he's going to get freaked out by the weather, whatever weather there is, because Kansas City weather stinks too. This was a Week 14 instant classic. These teams played in Kansas City. That was Chiefs -1.5. The Bills wound up winning it 20-17, but do you remember the play? The Kadarius Toney play, right? Yeah. So Kadarius Toney lines up offsides on offense. It gets called. That's the play where Travis Kelce throws a backwards pass for a touchdown that would have won the game. So tell me how you're approaching what should be the marquee game of the weekend.
I mean, the real truth is this is the most important game in the history of the name Josh ever. Right? I mean, this is for Cousin Josh.
Cousin Josh is so mad at you right now.
This is for Cousin Josh. This is for they've been fighting for respect for years. I mean, Patrick wasn't a cool name. Patrick Mahomes saved it. Hadn't been cool since Dirty Dancing. And like this is really big. I know, but really, I do think this. I hate to say it, but like sometimes games feel like there's a legacy, and it's not like at the end of this game that you're gonna really change your opinion that much of Josh Allen. But I just feel like this is a marquee game in his like path or whatever. It feels very, you said windows are short and all these things, and like the digs, like
you gotta win one of these.
This era, that's what I'm trying to say. This era, and especially with like the commonality of these guys facing each other, like it has to happen, and we've seen it in sports of every type that you have to get through your nemesis. And I just think a breakthrough is coming. And also at some point, like the Chiefs, I understand that they did look better last week in reflection to the rest of their season, but I don't think I think there's a little bit of a misnomer that like they just turned into the Chiefs again last week, right? It was still a two-man skill offense. It was still just Rashee Rice saving them again, and like meaning he changes the dynamics. Yeah, there you go. So. There you go.
Comeuppance.
I also have to say that I couldn't stop listening to "Here We Go" in your voice, a completely different game.
Here we go.
And then that was trending too. It started trending. "Here We Go" started trending. I just was like, "This is great."
The legacy part of it is funny because it's on the one hand completely ephemeral and not on anybody's mind when they're actually playing the game. But on the other hand, we've all been watching sports for our entire lives, and we do kind of know them when we see them. Mm-hmm. And like you're so right. It just is. It's not going to be what Josh Allen's thinking of on 3rd and 8. But we will be. You and I will be texting about it. We will be thinking about like, is he going to do it again? Is he going to screw it up again? Like
it's a stage game. It feels like it's on a stage.
Yeah. So, I don't feel super like I think the Chiefs. That was an easy bet last week because it was all about Miami. It was all about Miami having like.
They were
screwed the pooch and
they were cooked. Yeah,
being in the coldest game they've ever played in, and like they should have been the 2 seed instead of not. Like that felt like they were done, like you said, and so the Chiefs just kind of had to not like Tampa, just kind of had to not mess it up.
Show up and play.
Did a good job. I'll tell I don't know that this always means anything, but how many playoff teams did the Chiefs beat this year? The answer is 1. It was the Dolphins twice.
Right.
How many playoff teams did the Bills beat? I've got a list here. They beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They beat the Dolphins twice. They beat the Buccaneers. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Steelers last week.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something to that the Chiefs played plenty of playoff teams. They didn't win those games though. And I'll say, if we've had a hesitation about the Bills, it's been the defense having kind of gotten permanently crippled, early in the season. And they looked so good before they lost 2 of their big pieces on defense. And those guys aren't coming back. But seems like Rasul Douglas, at least as of our recording this, probably plays.
Yep.
And, they made such a big deal about A.J. Klein coming off the couch, right, from his old Panthers days and having to play middle linebacker because, what's his name? Terrell Bernard, I think?
Yeah.
He got carted off in that game last week against the Steelers, but we're told that he's got a chance to play. Maybe lately he was ruled out, but like even he might have a chance to play. I'll tell you, I don't love to trust the Bills because I've just seen that team have the kind of downside, against in dumb games, like just suddenly they can't move the ball against the Giants who couldn't stop anybody. Like there's just been a lot of that. I feel like I'm going to err on the side. Like the Chiefs are a nice right down the middle line drive single, but that's all they've got in them. And the Bills have so many ways to hit a home run here. So it sounds like we're both willing to give it.
That's exactly it. I just think like you have to be multiple. You have to have like multiple paths to face, because like we can talk about the matchups, but it is going to reduce to a couple plays or a couple drives. And I just feel more confident in the playmaking of not just the playmaking of Allen, but also like the where the Bills are weak. Which Rashee Rice has been really good. But like where they're weak is outside corner right now. And I'm just not sure the Chiefs or the team. I mean, no one guards Valdes-Scantling. He's just like over there. Like, it's like I guess what I'm saying is they're still good up the middle of safety. I know they're beat up at linebacker, but I just think like it's more not repeatable. It's more predictable and like concentrated, this Chiefs attack or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I think McDermott, if anything, the thing he can scheme is defense, and he's just like, hey Josh, go be Josh, again saving the namesake. And yeah, I just think Josh is everywhere. I'm going to be proud because also this line is I completely agree with the line. I had it at 3, but it was one of those lines where I also felt pretty confident about that it's Bills time. So
yeah, it's funny because like I mean, the reason I wouldn't be super confident on this one is because the best player in the league plays for Kansas City. Like Patrick, nothing that we're saying here is to denigrate Patrick Mahomes at all. This is if it's a failure of a Chiefs season if they lose here, and it probably is. You know, if you lose in the final 8, if you're the defending champ, it's probably a failure of a season. It's certainly not a Patrick Mahomes failure. No, it's a failure. It's a failure of roster building. It's a failure of receiver.
Yeah, of course, systemic. Right.
Yeah. So, like, I know what can wreck it, and what can wreck it is that guy, the quarterback. You know, Mahomes is great.
He can make us seem silly, and but just especially if he comes
100%.
So I guess that's true. He can make the multiple paths thing work, but also like I think Pacheco runs like he's auditioning for like American Warrior. I don't know if that's a show, but like like he's trying to be in the show that we just made up. So yeah, he just runs like slow-mo action star. It doesn't work for me. So
typewriter feet. Yes. We call them typewriter feet. Yeah, like I just feel like the Chiefs have been truth in advertising all year. I don't feel like last week changes anything, and so I'm gonna be willing to give those points and not feel super confident because again, I wish I trusted the Bills more. You know, if the Ravens do win, then Ravens Chiefs or Ravens Bills, that is a worthy AFC Championship game. That's going to be very, very, very fun. If it's Houston is really fun team in their own right, and heaven knows I've made money on this year, so I love them. Like I'm not trying to talk bad about Houston at all, but it feels like they would at some point be like, okay, now we turtle. You know, they're not ready probably.
Yeah, they do seem prepared. Like you said, what deems success? They can walk away successful no matter what with their outcome.
Oh yeah.
That's such a good point too. I like their style with since it's over 14.5 carries. I mean, it just speaks to one, not just the weather, but like the philosophy of how they've been playing. They've been concentrating their run game to him, and I just don't think Leonard Fournette has it in him. So, yeah.
I don't know if is he on the team anymore?
That's why
maybe he's gone.
Yeah, so.
He really doesn't. He definitely does not. All right. Well, this is the point in the show where we reveal our best bet. And from what you let slip earlier, I have a feeling for the second week in a row, we're on the same best bet. Who do you got?
It's the San Francisco 49ers. It's a big line to do, but I don't feel it's that big. I think it's one of those lines that pretty quickly could, not to say that you can't come back, but I just think like you might realize quite early in this game that it's going to come that way. That like I think it's going to look like a one-sided game. Of all of these, it feels like the game that I have the best feel on, so I'm going to go with that.
Me too. I'm on the 49ers. I'll give the 9.5. See, in Jim's world, the Texans could be down big, but they got a chance to come back. But Green Bay could be down big. They got no.
It's different. It's different. It's different because I wrote it down. So
I mean, if you wrote it down, it's different. Like I can't really debate that.
Google did not reject it. So.
But what do you, dear viewer on YouTube, think? If you're listening on the podcast, go over to youtube.com/HarrisFootball. You can answer the comments and tell us what your best bet of the weekend is. We would love to hear it, and we will shout out someone who gets one right next week when we get together for the conference championship weekend. Thank you very much to Dave Piper for producing so well, as he always does. Thanks to Jim McCormick for being awesome. And thanks to you for watching and or listening. Let's thank DraftKings as well. Again, HarrisTube is that code. Does help out. It doesn't cost you much, right? You make one $5 bet, $200 in bonus bets. Pretty good. We would appreciate that as well. My name is Chris, as I said like 10 times when the show started, and I very much appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.